Find out from the petitioner if he's satisfied with the outcome of SRAJ. Hey, we'll bring you some updates on the Liberian election as a former World Footballer of the Year, GHOne Newsroom, elected president of Liberia. Well, early on, he had an interview with Bola Ray. We'll want to find out why he wants to be president, and that detail is contained in this interview. All right, so we have this and other interesting details coming up this afternoon. It's always a pleasure joining you with the updates of stories making headlines. Well, we would want you to stay interactive. That's why we would serve you with our social media platforms where you would be able to stay interactive with us. Feed us with what you think are the reactions. So which of the stories indeed would you want to comment on? Is it about the Liberian elections? Well, we'll have our team at the camp to react to the victory of George Oponwia. So it's going to be an exciting morning leading into the afternoon where we'll bring you every bit of the details that you would want to catch. And also, as we said early on, we'll just want you to stay interactive. We'll bring you all these details and more right after this break.
Wondering where to find the best and affordable goods and services on the market today? Then Let's Go Shopping is the answer. Let's Go Shopping is your #1 telemarket. You can advertise your products on Let's Go Shopping this and every Saturday at 10 a.m. only on GHOne TV.
A lot goes on around us every day. Sometimes traditional news outlets cannot capture it the very second it happens. But you have a phone that has a camera, so you have the power. Give us your account of the most impressive and interesting stories in your community. When it happens and you're there, you report it to 0551 433 055. When you see something, say something. Share it on 055 143 3055. MTN Video Report, Mondays and Thursdays on Newsroom, in association with
MTN, everywhere you go.
Hello everybody, my name is Haitham from Wisco Investment. We are suppliers of My Dear Rice, Oba Spaghetti, Royal Deer Gold Rice, and VIP Rice. I wish the whole public and our Churchill customers and our lovely consumers Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And don't forget to enjoy My Dear Rice. Make it your Christmas special meal. And Happy Christmas and Happy New Year. Happy Shabbat!
Ghanaians entered the new year on the heels of a new government that promised heaven. The Akufo administration kicked off their tenure with criticisms of a plagiarized inaugural speech.
I ask you to be citizens.
I ask you to be citizens.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not spectators.
But the speech was politically correct.
I've heard it said that I'm behaving like a man in a hurry. Mr. Speaker, I am indeed in a hurry.
And so, excited Ghanaians settled down to have the time of their lives. But it wasn't to be. Demonstrations upon demonstrations. The Asempa budget was to be the genesis of delivering on the lofty promises, but the NDC just had to find something wrong with it.
The financial market, everybody is talking about, the investors are asking questions, but I need the Ministry of Finance to come and give us some answers.
With 28 million Ghanaians in wild opposition, the journey began. Along the way, 18 students perished in a disaster at the Kintampo waterfalls. Members of the MPP's Delta Force, in Rambo style, stormed the Kumasi Circuit Court. Then came a calamity that shook the nation: the death of Major Maxwell Mahama. A couple of months along the line, a gas explosion at Atomic Junction killed 7 and injured many. Indeed, 2017 has been an eventful year. Join us Christmas Day, December 25, 2017, right here on GH1 Television, as we give you a recap of major happenings that made the news throughout the year, plus a flashback of all our special reports. GH1 News.
All right, so many thanks for staying with us after that early break. We'll straight away zoom into our very first story for this morning. And here, at least 3 persons have sustained various degrees of injuries after armed robbers went on rampage at Sahara in Dansoman here in Accra. Well, the robbers reportedly attacked a mobile money vendor after he refused to hand over his sales. Let's now go live to the community and interact with my colleague Redwan Karim Dini Osman, who is stationed there. Redwan, many thanks for joining us. First of all, let me find out from you, do you have a clearer picture of what really happened where on Thursday?
All right, Kweku, I indeed do, and I am stationed at Dansoman Sahara, like you rightly said. I must say that this community has a semblance of a residential outlook, because right behind me you see a number of banks there. EcoBank is here, GT Bank is here, HFC Bank is here, and of course Fidelity, all behind me. And ahead of me is the Dansoman A cluster of schools. And so one would have thought that in such a community, you wouldn't have such security lapses. But of course, yesterday at about 3 p.m., we understand that 2 people on a motorbike decided to make a stop over here, and they actually stopped at this spot and entered the container you see on this side where the vendor was. One of them was actually at the door of the container trying to monitor situations around, and the other was in there strangling the vendor just to ensure that they are able to make away with the money. And so those outside heard noise from the the container, and they were actually trying to make sense of what is going on. Somebody had a gunshot, and I understand she thought that it was perhaps a fire has been shot, and so that was what was going on. But one lady was bold enough to enter the container. She was not fortunate. She was shot in the elbow, and she was shot in the right on this stretch. You see blood stains actually on the floor, and very soon I'll be showing you the shirt of an 11-year-old boy who also sustained a serious injury as a result of this very particular incident that happened yesterday. It was a broad daylight robbery, and residents here are actually struggling to come to terms with the reality of the fact that motor riders who obviously robbers who have disguised themselves as right are actually terrorizing a community. So let me engage us who has sustained injuries on her elbow and of course right on her knee. So you see the bandage with a plaster there, then you see her leg as well. She was actually in critical condition yesterday, but of course the hospital officials were able to remove the bullet from her arm and of course from her leg, so her condition is quite stable now. Dorcas, just briefly tell us what happened yesterday.
And by 3 o'clock, na me guy named Shout was store. And me so me quack of hair reason why. It's quite so be all last week naked you. Miss no, as I me quantity me quite a guys too. Baku me and the Baku then. Then on my why na who yenisa no so. Or maybe some question or Miss on me. I'm so okay. I didn't know me forces over cabby. Something woman and some answer. It's me casa, me I some percent, me done me home, but guys so shooting me. To shoot me 9 pay. Me, my me see from about this side, what to see. Aha, it's me baby 2 key no, say keys ya me to key. It's one a guy back on so on shooting me, sir. To shoot him, I said, my way. Nah. No one. Okay. Now, you himself before some of Baba Bayasano. Now, on with the motor naba be to Chemuaha. Several times, 3 times. Okay. Okay, so just hold on quick. So that is the information. Before the incident, they had actually come around to survey the community, and I understand they also picked a lead that the vendor had gone to the bank to cash some money, and so that was the lead to be to.
All right, my colleague Redwan Karim Dini Osman there with those updates from Sahara. Unfortunately, the internet system has not helped us so much, so we've not been able to bring you all the details of the picture, but trust that later this evening we'll bring you all the updates, the pictures, and what really transpired there, and the eyewitness account. In fact, she was in the thick of affairs when she tried to prevent these robbers. She was shot twice in the arm and in the thigh. So we would want to bring you all these updates later on in our bulletin that's in and around this evening. But we'll quickly move on to other stories, and here activities of poachers are affecting turtle population on the Volta Beach. Well, the situation, if not curtailed, will affect the country's tourism. William Ivansinkum with more details on this report.
The beach at Atiteti is one of the most patronized places by tourists. The green turtle, hawksbill, leatherback, loggerhead, and olive ridley are the commonest species found here. However, human activities are rendering 2 of the species extinct.
So the hawksbill and the loggerheads are the most preferred for the poachers, and they are becoming extinct on shore. And I must say that the situation is gradually reducing the population size of the sea animal. Not only that, but it is also affecting tourism.
A viable beach is becoming a bloody one due to activities of vicious poachers. Rex is a tour guide, and he tells me the fall of the turtle population causes a dip in the country's tourism revenue.
It's affecting the community a lot because, one, the turtle does a lot in the sea, and wherever the turtles are, there are a lot of fish that the fishermen here can have a bumper catch. But because they are killing the turtles, they are selling them to market women to sell as meat, and also it's killing tourism.
Hundreds of tourists patronize the beach during winter. The Fuveme and Atiteti beaches are the core nesting places for turtle, and this attracts tourists to the area.
Sorry? Before now it's already, it's okay. Let it go.
Well, let's ensure that this act is curtailed, because really these turtles are endangered, and we really need to preserve them and also use it as a means of promoting tourism in the area. My colleague William Evans Income brought us all these updates, and later on we'll want to follow up with some interviews and get some clarity into this particular barbaric act happening in and around the area. Let's talk a bit about politics now, but let's move away from our confines and reach out to Liberia, where President-elect of Liberia, George Weah, has been sharing why he ran for presidency in an exclusive interview with us. Well, this happened earlier on, and we'll bring you an excerpt of the interview with Bola Ray when he had George Weah earlier this year on Star Chat.
Well, for the country I love, for the people that I love.
And what exactly do you want to change in Liberia?
Well, we want to change in Liberia. You know, we have kept hope alive. We want to see a beautiful Liberia. A Liberia where people can get affordable health care, you know, and empower our youth, and through agriculture, and make sure we get in the basic necessity of life.
So to some of your critics, and I was reading online, and many of them say, well, he's not a politician. He should just stay with his, sports stuff, social life, and leave politics for politicians. When you hear comments like that?
Yeah, then I ask them the question, who are politicians? Who are politicians? Who are politicians?
It doesn't get to you.
It doesn't get it because if you check today, those who are in politics, these are all administrators. And also want to finance and business and what have you. They are in politics. So politics is not a game of certain people. Politics is a leadership.
Some say that politics is a dirty game, and you're a fine gentleman not to,
Well, I guess Nelson Mandela, who is the little Nelson Mandela, who's a gentleman, would never get in. Icon would never get in politics. Some people don't understand. When you are called to serve, people criticize, but you cannot tell someone it's not possible when you are not that person. So I always work hard, and I like to be exceptional, and that's why everything I do is distinction. Right. Because when people say that you can't do it, I would do it. When I came to politics, when I created the Liberia National Congress, at that time, that was our party, before it came to the Congress of Democratic Change. I mean, people say I was not serious. I put in my money where it's a loss for me, but I'm a business student. I risk, and I don't do full risk. I do marginal risk. You know what I'm saying? So we created the party because people believe that we need a grassroots movement, and that's what I did. But those who are today that were criticizing that today they are in our party, some of them become legislator, really, through my parties, and this is something that could never happen.
All right, so you can always easily say that the presidents always go through EIB before they ascend to that high office. Well, we gave him that interview, and then he was tenacious about it. He was very optimistic and positive. Today, he is on his way to becoming the president as we wait for him to officially to be sworn in. But with nearly all ballots from Tuesday's runoff counted, well, Mr. Weah is well ahead of his opponent, George Boakai, with more than 60% of the vote. And as news of Mr. Weah's victory emerged, his supporters began celebrating in the capital, that's Monrovia. Yes, excitement in and around the place. But how are Liberians here in Ghana reacting to Mr. Weah's victory? Let's go to the Bujuburam camp, where my colleague Della Michelle is currently stationed. Della, a very good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. Early part of yesterday, you were at the camp. A lot of excitement between both parties. Now that it's emerging that Mr. Weah is in the lead and is actually ascending to presidency, give me a crystal clear picture of how the people at the Bujuburam camp are receiving this news.
Well, Kweku, good afternoon to you. I'll say that Liberians in Monrovia are not the only ones celebrating this news. Here at the Bujuburam camp, where I am, is 18, the center of the community, where there's a lot of merrymaking going on. There's a pub just to my left, and I'll tell you, Kweku, that they have been playing the campaign song of George Weah over and over and over again. There's been so much dancing and jubilation going on here at the Liberian camp. Bujumbura to be specific. But just as every other country, or just as everyone expects from their presidents, so are the people here of Bujumbura camp as well. So I have just a few of them who are going to share their expectations with me, what they are hoping for in the incoming government to achieve for them in Liberia. So I'm just going to start off with Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're live on GHOne TV. I want to find out from you your expectations for the incoming government.
Well, I'm so much happy for this government to be here. We have been fighting for a change, and the change has come. And then the only thing we need to do now is to rally around our president and then work hard to build a new place. Because it is said that only new men with new ideas can build a new nation. And we have gotten this new man now to do this thing here for us. The only thing I want him to do is that the Liberian here in exile, we must be packed with technical knowledge so that we can go back and rally around our president so we can build a new nation so that all can live in peace and have a peace of mind. It is not the degree holder or the broke people that hammer the country. It is the wicked people that hammer the country. And so that we have got a sober-minded leader, which is President George. We are now in power so that we can all go around him. I ask all Liberia in exile that we all can go home now and build this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, Kweku, for him, he wants all Liberians who are in exile to go back home and join their country in terms of development. But he's not the only one with expectations. This man also has expectations. Sir, tell us your expectations for the incoming government.
Well, first of all, I want us to know that Liberia is no more about CDC or UP. We are all Liberians, and my expectation to the incoming government is that we should focus on unifying the country, and then let's look at development. Number one, peace is what we need in Liberia, because without peace there can be no development. So we should first look at peace and look at how we can unify the country, and then look forward to how much we can develop the country. Thank you.
So for you, you want to see peace in Liberia. What about you? What do you want to see in Liberia? That's my camera.
Yeah, what I want to see in Liberia is that, first of all, I would say thanks for the session. That's a beautiful questions. What I want to see in Liberia is I want to see total peace in Liberia, and a need for Liberia to be well built on the infrastructure level, and the citizens of Liberia should live up to standard. Because I believe that we have the resources for our citizens to live up to a standard that indeed it will be better for everybody. Yeah, and I'm so proud of what happened today. Good. You know, what amazed me so much is that George opened WIA, His Excellency to be precise. You know, 2005 election, he was what? Cheated. And then 2011, again, the same way he was cheated. And what he said to the media and international community that for peace sake, our George open man with I will let this go. Because I need peace for my country and my Liberian people to be at peace. I was very much amazed of what happened. And today, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. For His Excellency, as I said previously, George open man we are to take the lead and get to the top. Ask the president being elected today, to God be the glory. And I want to urge all my Liberians all around the world, today is a day that the Lord have made. We as a Liberian should rejoice and be glad in it.
All right, so Kweku, all they are saying is that Liberians should rejoice and be glad in it. But before I wrap up, there's one gentleman here I want to speak to. He has been talking about the economy of Liberia and what he wants to see the new government do. So Kweku, just permit me to engage him for just a second. He's just going to tell us about his expectations, especially in the Liberian's economy.
First of all, I would like to tell the EC boss in Liberia, thank you. Well, we are all happy in exile for a very peaceful election in Liberia. I can say almost all the Liberians in exile, we are rejoicing. And first of all, we are asking all Liberians around the world to see how best we can come back to our country to help the government to make peace reign in our country. We are youth, we are energetic men and women in exile. We have our little knowledge in exile. We want to be impact within the Liberian society. So, first of all, we congratulate the incoming president in Liberia to help us with the Liberian in exile to go back home. First of all, we'd like to thank our host country, Ghana, thank you for helping the library in Ghana. I would like to say.
All right, so Dela Michelle coming through with every bit of those updates there, and you can see the excitement amongst the people at the camp as they watch all out for George Oria, who's on his way to becoming president, as we wait for the Electoral Commission in Liberia to officially come out and pronounce him the winner. Well, we'll move on to some other issues here, and here the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice has cleared Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta of allegations of conflict of interest in the issuance of some bonds. Well, a citizen and a member of the opposition NDC petitioned SHRAD to probe allegations of conflict of interest against the Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta. But after 5 months of investigations, the Commission has concluded the petitioner could not substantiate the conflict of interest claim in the bond issuance. Well, the Commission, however, noted that the Finance Minister breached some rules in the issuance of the bond. Let's now speak to Broja Jemfi, the petitioner. A very good afternoon, or a little bit to the afternoon. So good morning, Broja. We're sincerely grateful that you made time to join us this morning. First of all, let me find out from you what you make of the findings of SHRAD.
Well, thank you very much. Let me wish your viewers Merry Christmas and to say that I presented a petition to SHRAD on the 25th of April this year, and SHRAD presented a report to me on 22nd December this year. I think that is more than 5 months. It indicates that they spent more than 5 months in investigating the matter. Secondly, I am still studying the report. I want to study the entire report before I would be able to make comments on specific issues. But I doubt that the report that I am holding has cleared the Finance Minister.
All right, Broja, let me highlight some few points in there. Maybe while you study it, maybe you would want to comment on this particular one. The Commission says you, Broja, failed to substantiate your allegations. One, on the basis of the evidence available to the Commission, it has come to the conclusion that, therefore, that holds that the allegation by the complainants, that's you, in response, contravened Article 284 of the 1992 Constitution by putting himself in a conflict of interest position. So, yes, based on this, based on your inability to substantiate the allegations, they are clearing the Finance Minister off. Do you want to speak particularly to this?
Well, I think that one would have to read the entire report to be able to know how SHRAD would have come to such a conclusion. And that is why I am refraining from commenting on the specific issues. Because from what I have read so far, I don't think that SHRAD has cleared the Finance Minister.
All right, Broja, so let me twist the question a little bit and try to put it this way, that if you after studying this realize that, of course, maybe justice was not served you, of course, SHRAD is an entity, it doesn't crack the legal whip, what next or what line of action would you want to take if you realize that indeed your petition was justified and there was a need to heed to your call?
I think that SHRAD has done a detailed job.
Okay.
And I have to congratulate. It is important that anybody who wants to comment or report on this particular report would have to get himself a full copy, the 140-page report, before we can make any conclusions. That doing that would be fair to SHRAD and would be fair to the report.
So, when you are satisfied with the report, you are not moving to any other issue again. You would accept it as it is.
Say that again, please.
I'm just asking that, so after studying the reports, which you are doing now, there would be no other way forward. You would just accept it as it is.
Well, I'll give a full commentary on the report after I have studied it and also consulted with my lawyers for some legal advice, because this is a legal document.
So, of course, you're studying it with your lawyers, and you could take legal action if you feel SHRAD did not serve your interest.
Say again, please.
You could be taking legal action. That's if you feel that SHRAD did not serve your interest.
Well, I don't think that we have gotten to that stage yet. I believe that SHRAD has done a meticulous job, and they have to be congratulated.
All right.
That is why I am advising that anybody who wants to make commentary on the report would have to read the report first. Because from what I have read so far, it doesn't look good for the finance minister.
Broja Jemfi, many thanks for joining us this afternoon. We'll follow the details of the issue. It's emerging, so we'll want to get more highlights of it and then re-engage other stakeholders on it. But we are sincerely grateful for your time. And we will quickly be switching into some of the major stories that we carried in year 2017. We have barely hours to move into the year 2018. So a quick reflection of the stories that we've carried out in here. GHOne News brings you a recap of the major happenings in our country.
2017 has been very eventful, and we are here to bring you major highlights during the year. My name is Ridwan.
And I'm Abna. You know, former U.S. President Bill Clinton once said, you don't have to wait till your party is in power to have an impact on life at home and around the world. And for the New Patriotic Party, Ridwan, we can say 2017 was a double-edged sword for them in terms of making a difference in the lives of Ghanaians.
And indeed, change was here, but not without drama, as supporters of NPP, even before President Akufo-Addo was inaugurated, went on seizure spree of state assets, Rambo style.
The incoming government's transition team also traded accusations with that of the past NDC government over a request for ex-President John Mahama to retain his official bungalow after the handing over, among others.
We have heard about ongoing recruitment into the security services now, which we hope is not true. We've heard of conversion of temporary staff, of political assistants, and some of the staff we took on into permanent public servants.
When we have a transfer of political power, the state of Ghana remains the state. Actions that were taken with the proper authorization prior to the election are actions on which those institutions can take further action.
And the contention continues. The bungalow unoccupied. They say 3 is a charm, and there's the president's story. Imagine 2 unsuccessful attempts to be the most powerful person in Ghana, and finally, by dint of calculated hard work, you succeed. Worse, obviously, will not capture President Akufo-Addo's feelings as he took the oath of office.
Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo,
having been elected to the high office of President of the Republic of Ghana,
having been elected to the high office of the President of the Republic of Ghana,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Well, perhaps the reason the astute lawyer couldn't identify that his speechwriters had plagiarized portions of his inaugural speech.
I ask you to be citizens.
I ask you to be citizens.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not subjects.
Citizens, not subjects.
Responsible citizens, building communities of service and a nation of character.
Responsible citizens, building your communities and our nation.
GHOne, if you were the president, what would you have said to your speechwriters after the speech?
I would have whipped them into line. But you know, now that the elephant had emerged from the bush and settled on the highest seat of the land, Ghanaians waited with bated breath for the many promises to be fulfilled. Now, the first order of business was to return to the chamber where he had served the people of Ibuakwa North many years ago.
Wrongdoing has no political color, and I do not subscribe to the lawlessness of political party supporters simply because their party has been elected into office.
But the admonition did nothing to end the hooliganism. It did spiraled out of control with more seizures and even a jailbreak.
Somebody has been arrested. The police are looking for other perpetrators, other accomplices. Of course, you saw the clip. It's not the leader alone who was there or who did that. Other accomplices are there, and the police in Kumasi are looking for them.
Well, Abena, at this point, we needed some good news, and the Asempa budget had just that aim. Ken Oforiatta, the keeper of the country's purse, walked into Parliament and, well, abolished some taxes, among others.
With this budget, abolish the 1% special import levy. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on financial services. Mr. Speaker, to all of our friends in Abosokai, we would abolish duty on the importation of spare parts.
While members of the majority side cheered, the fired-up minority just had to jeer. A reminder to Ghanaians that they might have lost power, but certainly not their voices.
This is a government of confusion and deception. You can see from the very onset. And like the government said, that the testicle that would degenerate into hernia can be spotted the first day it descends. You see the deception.
He said he has removed the special import levy. He has not removed the special import levy.
I bet you would want to have more of this, and trust that later tonight on News Tonight we will bring you the full version of the flashback happenings in year 2017, and in the coming days we will be filling you in with more details. But let's still stay on flashback as we look at some of the major stories that we also brought to you. Now, they invade the streets like scavengers, but their quest to make ends meet makes them a nuisance to many. Well, in the following report, my colleague William Evans Income takes a look at the growing instance of child beggars at major traffic intersections here in Accra.
They wake up each morning with one thing in mind: beg for alms. Every year, these children migrate from other countries, notably Niger and Chad, with their families, in an attempt to escape the economic hardship and sometimes political instability in their countries. They find themselves on the streets of Ghana, begging for alms. Ramatu, a 30-year-old mother, migrated 2 months ago with her 2 daughters, Hamsa, who is 5 years old, and Mariam, 10 years of age. These children follow unsuspecting people in an attempt to get money from them. Their mother sits at a vantage position, closely monitoring their movement. Here at Circle, the children are used as pawns, a clear example of child labor.
From the United Nations 2017 Progress Report on Goal 8 of the SDGs, some 168 million children between the ages of 5 to 17 are working across the globe. 85 million of such children are actually engaged in hazardous work. over here in Ghana, we have some 2 million children who are working as child laborers, and some of them are commonly found here on the streets of Accra.
The situation is not different on the streets linking the Holy Spirit Cathedral and the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. The children besiege moving vehicles without a sense of caution. Some are as young as 3 years. The oldest we inquired was 8. They beg for money, while their parents sit waiting for them to account for the quantum they accrued. A few are there without any parental guidance. Section 87 of the Children's Act 1998 prohibits exploiting children and defines such acts as child labor as one that deprives the child of its health, education, or development. Apparently, these parents are either oblivious of their children's rights or just insensitive to the kind of dangers they exposed them to.
They are
minor. Look at their ages. Some of them are 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. At least as a nation, we don't have to sit down and be looking at them. We really have to do something about it before, they flood the whole country. And already they flooded almost everywhere.
They are to account for every penny they make, and failure to raise enough for the family upkeep attracts a punishment. In an attempt to avoid the wrath of their exploitative parents, they go the extra mile to get the money from these passers-by. Their wretched appearance sometimes arouse the sympathy of their targets. Nonetheless, some could be unaccommodating. Child Rights International has in the past raised issues of these child beggars who are seen by many as nuisance on our streets. We caught up with the executive director, Bright Apia.
Once there's a child here, by principle of law, that child becomes part of the state in terms of the services that we render and all that. So we cannot take some of these things for granted. So where the state feels that I cannot take up certain responsibilities, then the alternative is to ensure that you get these people back to where they are coming from.
To the child rights advocates, steps must be taken to stop minors from begging for alms on our streets.
We can integrate them within our social safety net, where certain benefits that we put in place for our children, they would also enjoy the same. One has to do with the capitation grant, one has to do with the national health insurance, and the school feeding program. Any services that go to support children, then it means that once we accept to integrate them within our society, then we need to provide them with these services. So that is basically what we are talking about.
Apparently, the issue of child exploitation on some principal streets have dominated discussions on many occasions. Pathetically, they have become more rhetorics. William Evans Inkum, GHOne News, Accra.
More rhetorics, I must say, and here in 2018, we should all sit as a country, improve the social welfare system to be able to capture all these children, because it's really a difficulty having children on the streets engaging in these kind of illegal activities. Well, 2018, we hope to see a difference in this entire system. But I'll move on and talk about something relating to health and stigma. And here, living with HIV and AIDS is much different presently compared to several years back due to the research and new medications that have helped in prolonging the lifespan of infected persons and protecting them from spreading to others. However, in Ghana, the joy of persons living with HIV and AIDS are always cut short by discrimination and stigma they face in society, despite the existence of a law that criminalizes stigma against persons with HIV and AIDS. Well, in the following report, my colleague Alice Aite tells the story of a 43-year-old woman who has lived with HIV and AIDS since 1999 and explores how stigma in the Ghanaian society continues continues to be a huge challenge for many others, accounting for about 59% of infected persons not going for the antiretroviral drugs.
43-year-old Sapoma, not her real name, wants to remain anonymous because stigma against HIV and AIDS patients is as palpable as a pimple on one's face. She has been living with the infection for 18 years, and despite all the HIV and AIDS campaigns that ran for years on television, radio and print, nothing has changed with regards to stigmatization.
It's all about the AIDS. You don't want me to now. Don't forget about your condom.
Just like many other persons diagnosed with HIV or AIDS in Ghana, she thought she will not live beyond 3 months. She found out her status in 1999 after her husband was hospitalized due to the disease.
I was not expecting that I would be HIV positive, because I thought people having HIV are sex workers or people that travel to French countries to do sex working. That is all I know about HIV. And I know HIV was a curse. So it's far off me that I will not fall into that trap.
Sapoma lost her husband in 2003, but not before she lost her 3 infant children. You should have seen Sapoma's shock when she was thrown out of her matrimonial home after her husband finally died. Her in-laws backed their action with a note left behind by her dead husband that she should be thrown out so she did not infect other members of the man's family with the virus. From that time on, life became a living hell for her.
I sometimes feel sad that if not HIV, I would have gone far. I will not be in Ghana by then. So where would you have me? Because my late husband was not staying in Ghana. So if that time there was cure or there was antiretroviral, he will also be okay and go back to the States and continue the work, and I will join him. Yes. And life will be better than this.
Why? Life is difficult now?
Yes. Taking medicine is not easy. Whether you like it or not, whether you are sick or you are not sick, you have to take your medicine. Just to suppress the virus, that for you to help, to have life, to be strong all the time and work. Because if you stop taking the medicine, the virus will multiply itself and you don't know what will happen. Maybe you can't survive again. And now that there is no cure, you don't know what is going to happen the next day.
Statistics from the Ghana AIDS Commission show that an estimated number of 293,804 persons in Ghana are living with HIV, but just about 41% of these persons are living on their antiretroviral drugs, with the larger proportion of about 59% not accessing the drugs due to stigma. The Ghana AIDS Commission, whose mandate is to provide support, guidance and leadership for the national response to the HIV and AIDS pandemic, is cash-strapped as the lack of funds for the Commission's work has been cut down.
Currently, funding has dwindled so drastically to the extent that we only have money for antiretroviral treatment, mother-to-child transmission, and key population interventions, or interventions for key populations. And so government is expected to provide funding for general population and other services.
This, according to the Director of Research and Monitoring, has slowed down efforts in awareness creation despite the decline of comprehensive knowledge on HIV and AIDS, with more people taking risks by having unprotected sex.
Because of the... Well, quite a situation there with HIV and AIDS, even in the era where stigmatization is supposed to be a thing of the past. People continually stigmatize. But do you know it's actually criminal to stigmatize against somebody living with HIV and AIDS? Well, if you don't know, you do understand fairly now. My colleague Alice Aite brought you those details. We'll move straight away into business. And this afternoon, we'll take a look at a review of the performance of the stock market. Well, joining me to do these analysis is Justice Edu, who's a research analyst with First Bank. Well, we might want to know, if I invested heavily in a stock market at this point, maybe depending on the equity that I invested in, would I have gained or lost? What are the prospects for year 2018? And what are some of the indicators that I should look out for as an investor? Well, you get it here first because we understand critically what business means. That's if you are moving to the equity market. Well, Justice, many thanks for joining us. And Happy New Year in advance. Let me just move on straight and talk about how the market is performed, especially comparing it to the sub-region, other countries that also engaged in stock activities. What would be your general overview with the Ghana Stock Exchange?
I would say that the market has performed very positively this year. If you are comparing Ghana to other emerging market African economies, you realize that government far outperformed most of the countries. The only country that comes close to Ghana is the Nigerian market. That has done about 43% this year. Currently, we are doing 52.2%. If you are looking at the year-to-date return on the stock exchange, the general market. And there are a number of drivers that's accounted for this positive performance. The main thing is that the fundamentals of most of the companies have improved. And as macroeconomic conditions improve, it tends to have some effect on most of the companies that are listed. There was an issue with power crisis some years back. All these issues have been resolved. So in terms of expenses, these companies can have lower expenses. Inflation is declining. It tends to help the companies to report better results. And as they report better results, markets tends to pick up. Investors become more open to the stock exchange and they invest more. One thing also is that because for the better part of this year, we've not really seen the fixed income market performing well from an investor point of view. Investors looking for alternative investments will naturally switch to the easiest market, which is the stock exchange. So we are seeing some form of trade-off, which normally is the case because yields on fixed income securities are not as high as they used to be.
So let me break it down for my viewers. You're saying fixed income money market instruments like treasury bills and the like, fixed deposits at some point were not doing well because treasury bill rates were hovering downwards continually. So for somebody who needs higher interest, the alternative was to move on to the stock market.
Yes.
It could be one of the contributing factors too.
Especially as the companies do well, there's more incentive for investors, especially investors who have access to a lot of information to move onto the stock market. Again, we've seen quite a number of offshore investors also investing in Ghana. There are a lot of funds out there who want emerging market economies to invest in. And if you look at the fact that Ghana has a very stable economy, and if you look at the fact that, as I said earlier, the companies are doing well, lots more of these offshore investors also tend to bring their funds, and it increases activity on the market. One thing also is that there are some government policies that tend to also motivate people to invest. It increases market sentiment. I think earlier this year when the budget was read, the capital gains tax was removed. So if you invest and you make gains on the market, instead of paying some element as tax, because that has been scrapped, there's some more motivation. It gives every
investor some joy to look at our markets. There's no tax on it. Make the money, make the earnings, and fly with your money.
These are the main reasons that has accounted for the positive outturn on the market this year. And going on into 2018, we expect the momentum to continue to pick up. This year, for instance, we've seen a lower fiscal deficit, and government projects to have an even lower fiscal deficit next year. It means that
so 2018 is equally positive.
It's looking positive.
Just before I allow you to go, Justice, you can quickly touch on the performance of the Ghana cedi. 2017 in review. How have we performed with the cedi?
Okay, the cedi has been largely stable if you are comparing 2017 to 2016. Currently, if you look at official data from the Bank of Ghana, the cedi has depreciated by just under 5% against the dollar. The key thing is to look at the depreciation against the euro. we've not done too well against the euro because the euro has performed very well if you are comparing even the euro to the dollar. And going forward, we expect normally between the first 3 months of every new year, there's some pressure on the cedi, and I don't think that will change next year. This is the time when people who have imported goods for the Christmas season will have to pay back and all that. So there's some form of pressure
coming
on the
the
cedi.
dollar.
So that should continue in 2018. The good thing is that our central bank, the Bank of Ghana, has been able to build its reserve position. We've seen a lot more exports in 2017, so we have a lot of reserves. Hopefully that should be able to cushion the cedi when things.
So we should expect that Governor Addison will be injecting some FX, foreign exchange.
Not necessarily. I think currently they are adopting a hold and see approach. So they'll wait and see how the cedi on its own will be able to match up against the other currencies. It becomes apparent that they will have to support the cedi at some point. I'm sure they have enough reserves to do so.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Justice, for joining us. Fantastic job you've done 2017 when it comes to First Bank, and we'll look forward to watching your activities in and around 2018. I mean, you should be an investor. You should look out for how to keep some money aside. Up next, we're looking at international news.
At least 12 people have been killed and 4 others critically injured